God, this is out of my hands. It's up to you. This whole conversation of custody, this whole narrative, gaslighting. At this point, it's going too far. God, please.
There was a psychiatrist involved who was essentially brainwashing the child.
Hey, everybody, I just got off the phone with Kim. I told her to stop antagonizing me with this TikTok thing. I said it's never again. I am her father.
Absolutely. I mean, that's what Instagram is doing, right? That's what most of social media is doing, is selling you this lifestyle, which is just not true.
Making their career on Instagram, putting his wife out there with the fish lips.
He's like, Assalamu alaikum, brother, 341 days. That's how we used to talk. Because that was how long it was since he didn't see his kid.
I'm speechless. I mean, this, wow, subhanAllah.
This is the Deen Show. This is the Deen Show.
Bismillah, alhamdulillah, assalamu alaikum, greetings of peace. How are you guys doing? Welcome to the Deen Show. I'm your host, and my next guest, attorney Navaid Hussein. He specializes in many areas of law, but his primary area of practice is family law. He has handled a wide range of complex divorce litigations, including multi-million-dollar marital estates, contentious custody battles, and issues related to international law and child abduction. He routinely assists clients in child support, child custody, father's rights, and other related issues. He often uses his background in business, estate planning, and asset protection to approach divorce litigation from a unique and creative perspective. And that's my guest here with me. How you doing, brother? Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum assalam. I'm doing well, alhamdulillah. Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you for accepting the invitation to be with us here.
Of course.
Now, I want to get into this video because I think what better way than to take a living example of, unfortunately, the people I'm going to show you now, or the person I'm going to show you now. May God Almighty Allah guide us all, and we have love for all of humanity. But you have two individuals now who they're in the public eye. They put their life out there for the world so people can, have a look into their lives. And now, at one time it was good, now it's bad, and they're actually going through what we're going to be talking about.
Oh, subhanAllah.
So I'm going to go ahead and show you this clip, and we'll jump into the topic. How's that?
Let's do it.
Hey, everybody, I just got off the phone with Kim. I told her to stop antagonizing me with this TikTok thing. I said it's never again. I am her father. I know y'all don't respect fathers and the idea of family, and media tries to promote something. I said, I'm not allowing my daughter to be used by TikTok, to be used by Disney. I have a say-so. And then when people say, oh, they're going to use this for you in court, I didn't have a say-so on whether or not they went to Sierra Canyon. Most men do not, there's no such thing as 50-50 custody with in society today. That's not even, it always leans towards the mom. But right now, and I'm happy that you guys got to see just a small piece of what I dealt with.
All right, so Kanye, we got you a Muslim attorney here. Hopefully you can give us some good advice. So we got a few issues here. And inshallah, God willing, we can derive some benefit.
Absolutely.
The one thing he started talking about was TikTok. Mm-hmm. So now I guess they're getting a divorce, and the father doesn't want his daughter, I guess, being exposed to TikTok, being put out there for TikTok. And the other issue where he gets in there, he talks, let's get into the first one.
The TikTok issue. I mean, that's the thing, right, is when you have a court deciding what's in the best interest of the child, it's such a vague term, and it's very hard for anyone to even define what it is. So it could be that one husband in this scenario believes that this video or this act or whatever she's doing online is not appropriate, it's not in the best interest of the child. But the wife can disagree. And because of that disagreement, now you're leaving somebody who doesn't understand your values or your culture deciding that for you, right? And so at this point, he might not even have much recourse in the court system to stop the daughter from being on TikTok, especially if it's nothing illegal about it, or, you can't really necessarily object to morality, unfortunately, in the court system, because we've kind of divided the two. There's no more morality in the court system, so it's not, I don't even think it'd be an argument for him to really bring that up.
Wow, that's pretty deep. I mean, so now, okay, once the family is united, that's one of the benefits now. The two can come in, they can go ahead and work together to raise the child right. But once now things split up, and sometimes one is more concerned about getting maybe revenge, some type, what kind of things do you deal with now? And then it's like they blinded to actually what's in the benefit of the children.
100%. And what's different about our community, the Muslim community in general, is that for some reason, as soon as a fight happens, we run to the divorce attorney. Rather than trying to work it out, rather than following the Quran and the Sunnah in terms of how we're supposed to deal with it, stay apart, appoint a representative from each side, talk, negotiate, get something done. But no, right away, our community jumps to the lawyers, and all of that emotion is being carried forward in that litigation. And so you see people going crazy at the beginning, where they spend so much money to try to stop the other side from seeing the child. And the other thing I would say is that you're correct. As soon as we give up control from our family or from our community and we leave it up to the court system, forget about it, right? You're just one out of 100 cases in family law right now, and they don't care about the morality. They don't necessarily care about anything except getting the case done.
It's interesting now. I mean, obviously, it's unfortunate. Again, I mean, may God Almighty Allah guide them, to the truth and to live a morally upright life. And you see now they have all the money, the Kim Kardashians, the Kanye West, but you can't get rid of the pain now that a person is going through, the drama, the trauma. It's like,
especially on the children. And that's the thing. For us, our kids are our biggest assets, right? And for us to be able to pass on what we have to the next generation is huge. But if we are now creating drama and trauma, where now these children have no connection with their parents, they've been interviewed by 10 different people from the court system, how do you think they're going to be when they grow up? Do you think they're going to be successful? Do you think they're going to stay on the deen? Of course not. We have to have foresight in, really, I don't think we're going to stop divorce, but we have to do it according to the Sunnah.
Towards the end, he was saying something about, in his experience now, he's saying that the court is more in favor towards his wife now. It's just kind of, and we hear this a lot. I mean, now we're going to a family attorney. Like, how is it set up? And some men say like it's set up for a man to fail.
So there is a bias, I believe, when it comes to custody to favor the women, right? And the system that we're using is a system, there's no presumption of 50-50 in Illinois especially. Meaning you don't start the case with, okay, now we're going to start 50-50. One party has to prove why you should get less or more. No, you start with 0. And usually what the status quo is that the mom or the wife or whoever who's staying home with the children, or who quote unquote spends more time with the children, will end up keeping the status quo and having more time. So it becomes an uphill battle for the spouse or the husband in this scenario. So I think there is an inequity, and I don't know what the solution is. Islam has a solution, but I don't think the court system is doing any favors to our children.
So what would you tell him now? Like, what would you? He's trying to get his daughter to go to religious service. He's trying to and it's kind of ironic, isn't it? Now, and let's go back. I mean, you're also obviously a family attorney, but you're someone who tries. I mean, obviously, like us, any Muslim live by the Quran and the Sunnah.
Of course, yeah.
So how important is it that you really got to be on marrying a? Let me frame this right.
Yeah.
If somebody is, so people can, for a lot of the not yet Muslims out there, they can understand with some simple examples. Let's start off with, if you're a conservative Republican, you probably want to watch, if you're going to marry, say it's some liberal Democrat,
Sure.
What other example? Let's say you're very extremely vegan.
Sure.
And now you're going to marry a meat eater, right? Got meat all the way in the fridge. Or what else can I give you? Let's say you're somebody who is really recovering alcoholic, gambler. You don't want to go to the nightclubs anymore, but you're possibly going to marry someone who loves drinking and partying. It's probably not going to work.
Absolutely.
How about when it comes to now deen? When you marrying someone really who is on the same wavelength as you, who's someone who loves their creator, someone who loves to live a morally upright life. Because we hear horror stories where someone is just infatuated with the looks of a person, then they get married, and then the kids get involved, and then it's like all that other stuff wears off, and they come to see you.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's the thing, right? Is that we look at divorce as the problem, but I think it's really a symptom, right? I think the problem really is how we're choosing to get married these days. The way we're choosing to get married, unfortunately, is based off of pictures, off of profiles. We don't know this person's background, the family they came from. We don't know any of that information, but we'll go ahead and invest our whole entire life into this person and continue on. So again, we have so much benefit in our tradition on how to make these relationships strong. Because it's not, like you said, it's not about the love necessarily. Yes, love comes, but it's more about the values, the practical union of these two individuals. Can you raise a family? Can you make sure that your kids follow the deen generation after generation? So we have to start from back here at the marriage in order to avoid things like this, you know?
Do you find yourself almost kind of like even being a marriage therapist sometimes?
Yes, I do, you know, and sometimes
I like that because that's more of a holistic approach. You're not just, you know, someone coming in and now like, you know, I want a divorce, and then they're just looking how much money they can suck you dry from.
SubhanAllah. And that's the problem, right? Is that you see so many lawyers who all they smell is money. And it's not about fixing the marriage. It's not about doing it the right way or getting to the end solution. It's about, no, how much money can I get out of this case? And so when you come to my office, the problem is that you've kind of decided you wanted a divorce, right? And so, of course, you're going to have the questions about counseling and things like that. But I think more so where I want to be different is explaining the divorce process and what's likely going to happen. Look, at the end of the day, you're going to have to live with this person for the next 18 years. You have to raise this kid. You want to keep him on the deen. Look, overnights might be okay. Let's not deprive dad of time. Let's make sure dad's in their life. Let's make sure that mom's in the life. Like, I think that's what more lawyers need to do for their divorce clients. Rather than fueling the rage, we need to calm them down and show them the future.
You know, you'll see these are the people with the most followers. These are the people that all eyes are on. But now when you see their lives just crumbling in front of you, but the deen, Islam has all the solutions, right? And then look at this nightmare of a situation. I want you to imagine this now.
Upon their father's request, shouldn't be allowed to come to Sunday service. At this point, it's going too far. God, please. The boyfriend texts me, antagonizing me, bragging about being in bed with my wife. I thought it publicly for a year and a half. I've been dragged, and how she's not my wife. She don't have her last name, and now he texting me, talking and bragging about how he's in bed with my wife. And I'm like, well, who's watching my children if he's texting me bragging about being in bed with my wife? And I thought this wasn't my wife no more legally, since I got I got the lawyer to finally finish the divorce. Because every time I finish the show, the Free Hoover show, the next day she dropping her last night. Every time I do something positive, it's something negative that's coming.
What do you do in this situation now? I mean, if someone's have you been through in the Muslim community?
Of course, 100%.
Come on,
100%.
You're kidding me.
I've seen it all. I've seen it worse than this. It's weird to listen to this guy like talk about his life online.
You're becoming newer to this. It's like you've just heard all the. You're
absolutely
totally.
It's sad.
Nothing shocking anymore.
Nothing at all. I mean, subhanAllah. Look, every community has problems. Muslims have problems too. The thing is that, you know, if this guy had the solutions, or if we had the solutions, we would have a better result. I mean, what do you tell this guy? I mean, subhanAllah, you know, become Muslim, number one. But number two is, a lot of this is going to be something you just got to deal with, right? Because the system is not there to help you. Community, society, no one's there to help you. You almost have to kind of internalize it and get the therapy to get through these things. And again, if we rely on the system to solve our problems, or the court system to solve our problems, we're going to be lost and destroyed. We need to have our own dispute resolution centers and, you know, institutions built so that we can apply our own tradition and our own values in our cases. So for him, I mean, I think the only thing is to see if you could get rid of that animosity in your heart and think about the children and pray that the other person loses that animosity in their heart. But I don't know.
Let's say you're a Muslim, one who's submitted to the will of God. You're trying to, you know, be a good human being. You're trying to live by the Quran, the Sunnah. Okay, well, let me back that up. I mean, you weren't in the beginning, right? You made some mistakes, but now you are. But then you married someone like Erdi. I framed that. You married someone that is of a different religion, faith, or no faith, whatever the case.
Yeah.
And now you're turning back around, and now you find yourself in a really sticky situation, right? Now you're seeing like she don't want to change towards the better. She still has friends who want to go to the nightclubs. You don't want a wife like this who's drinking, partying, right? Being, you know, out there like just for the world. you want to care for her, nourish her, you love her, but she's more concerned with or the opposite way around.
Yeah.
Maybe it's the man. It doesn't have to be women. Maybe it's the man. Maybe he's a scumbag, right?
Yeah.
Either way, so now what happens here? Like in a situation, what can you do in this situation where now you're trying to get them to go to the masjid?
Mm-hmm.
You follow me?
Yeah.
And they're holding them back.
Yeah.
Is it go back to what you said earlier? You're out of luck. There's nothing, like he wants to get him to Sunday service.
Yeah.
You want to get your child to the masjid.
Yeah.
But now they're, in spite of you, they're trying to, not cooperate. And
so, I mean, there's arguments you can make in court, right?
Yeah.
There's things that you can show in court as to why this is perhaps the habit of the child. Perhaps this is what's best for the child. This is what is providing them connections in the community. They get certain resources and a leg up in society by being part of these religious organizations. So, I mean, there is something, if you're asking from a legal perspective, if there's something you can do, yes. I mean, there's arguments to be made, right? But at the same time, from a practical level, right? And I'm going to kind of answer it in two ways. Is one, before the divorce, right? I don't want to say that divorce is 100% bad all the time, right? It might be warranted in certain situations. But as long as, if it is warranted, to do it in the proper manner so it's not impacting your children. But secondarily, this is kind of more of a religious point, I guess, is that we can't change people's hearts. Yes, maybe we made a mistake. Maybe we didn't look at the values, but now it's done, right? And maybe God put you through this test to teach you something else, or to bring you somewhere forward, or to show you the light in some other way. But what I would say is, find your purpose, because your purpose is not marriage. Your purpose is not having children. Your purpose is something beyond that. And I think if we can kind of rip ourselves up and kind of zoom out instead of diving into the drama and posting all this online, I think that's where you find that tranquility.
Mm-hmm. You also talk about where you're seeing that marriage is almost becoming a thing of the past. Can you elaborate on that? Yeah.
So I was just thinking the other day, I'm a divorce attorney. I didn't plan to be one, but I'm in the business of marriage. I want to make sure marriages are strong from a deen perspective, as a brother perspective. But I really see the marriage rates are declining. But for us as Muslims, it's such a strong institution. But the waves of the external society is really weathering away on our concept of marriage, because we are adopting a non-Islamic version of marriage, a romantic marriage, a marriage where it's all about flowers and, daffodils, right? But that's not what Islam is about. Islam says that half of your deen is how you treat your family. And so if you want to see if you're a good person or not, see how you treat your family, see how your wife thinks of you, see how your husband thinks of you. And so, but now when we have an individualistic society that doesn't care about that type of thing, marriage is not going to work in that. We also have so many problems with this within our community about shifting away from community and shifting towards, let's say, online, or shifting towards other things, which is leaving a gap in how we find our spouses. Unfortunately, we have to go on Tinder and Minder and these other places to find our spouses, but you don't have the value. So unfortunately, I mean, the data shows it. It's on the decline. And I hope we as Muslims wake up to it and, kind of inculcate this into our children, that you get married to raise children, to carry on this beautiful knowledge and tradition that we have.
Mm-hmm. What is it when you usually see people? So it's one or the other. Do couples both come in sometimes? They both come in to see you, or is it is that where they have to? One has to choose you, and one has to have their own attorney, right?
Yeah.
Can you ever do it where it's, because in the deen it should be you come, like Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala talk about, you come in peace, you leave in peace.
Yeah.
But why is it where you come in peace but you end in war?
SubhanAllah, that's such a good question. That's the thing. That's what I was getting at, right? Is that we jump to the lawyers, and that's the problem. As a lawyer, I can only represent one side. Yes, we can do mediation. We can try to do mediation, but a lot of times what happens is that if you do mediation with one lawyer, mediation doesn't work out. Now that lawyer can't represent either of you. Okay, so the legal system is forced to kind of pit each other against each other. But if you went to arbitration, or you went to the imam, or you went to the elders in the community, or somebody else that you trust, and try to resolve your issues there, that's where you can actually end in peace. It's very difficult to end in peace in a lawyer's office. Mm-hmm. You know, so that'd be my first thing. Don't jump to the lawyer's office necessarily.
I mean, look at this. I mean, I want, you know, people to really let this sink in. Imagine like someone wants to sell their stock and they're telling you to go away from their stock. I mean, this is this is what a Muslim's about. A God conscious who really is more concerned with the next life than this. And you're giving, you know, beautiful advice, you know, stay away from the lawyers.
Seriously. May Allah accept. May Allah accept.
I mean, this is really beautiful. I had you know, you talk to different people, and it's really tragic to see. And may God Almighty Allah protect us and protect those who are going through all of this, and let this really sink in. There was a case of, and there's a lot of these cases. Are you seeing it? This is actually from a marriage counselor and an imam himself who went through the whole system, and he felt like possibly he went through this so he can see what's in the system, and he saw how a lot of this corruption that's happening. And he's now of the opinion that you shouldn't even get married. That's like something you should really consider even going through. You should just do the nikah. You should just avoid all of this, because at the end it will just, you'll be going through the ringer. It was traumatizing for him, you know.
No, absolutely. So I mean, I've talked about this before, and I think that it's something that I've entertained in my mind. Right? What are the pros and cons of getting a nikah and not having the state involved and all of that? And I think that what it came down to, and kind of the conclusion I reached, was that, okay, maybe do get married under the legal system, because what happens a lot of times is that perhaps our sisters, the most vulnerable in our society, individuals who are newly Muslims, I've seen this a lot, where sisters are, you know, they believe in perhaps the Western concept of marriage. They get married. A few years later, they get divorced, and they realize that, okay, I'm not protected under the legal system. Okay, for her, that's really bad. On the other hand, you have divorces where you go to the legal system, and now the guy has to pay maintenance for 20 years and half his property is gone. So there's extremes on both sides. I think the middle ground would honestly be to get a prenuptial agreement. I think that Islam has certain terms that a marriage is supposed to abide by, and we have the freedom in this country to enter into those contracts and make our marriage and our divorce especially, in accordance to Islam. So I would caution against maybe, and again, I'm a lawyer, right? So I have to be careful in the type of things I say, but I would maybe caution about just getting a nikah unless you truly understand the impact of it. And I think maybe the safer route, and what I think our community should rise to, is making prenuptial agreements common. I think that's the
Are we
way.
seeing more of a trend in that now?
Only recently.
I think there's going to be a lot of scholars, a lot of academics, a lot of people in our community is going to watch this, or should watch this, pass this along. And this is a great starting point for many people who haven't even considered this, because we got someone who's, have you seen this documentary? I think it should be just standard watching for anyone who's considering divorce, or wants to go ahead and get more enlightened on what we're talking about, divorce court.
Yeah, I've seen that.
We have serious problems in our family law court system.
This is a business.
The more you charge, the more people are willing to pay.
And I said to the litigants, I want you to know, after 2 hours, we will have spent more than most people in this courthouse make in a year.
Your home, your valuables are all going to be sold to pay the lawyers and people like me.
Even though I was acquitted, he still made a decision to take my son away from me. His birthday was last week, and I didn't get to see him.
What you have is a tinderbox, and the lawyers are throwing gasoline on that fire.
The system is designed to create conflict.
$50 billion industry.
It's crazy. And it's all the lawyers. It's the lawyers getting rich. Your college funds, your retirement, that house you saved up for, you're paying for the lawyer's college. You know, you're not paying for your own.
And you're taking it from the kids.
Yeah, subhanAllah.
Isn't that ultimately what's happening?
That's what's happening. That's what's happening. Yeah, you're leaving a family solution, an intimate solution, to a corporation, to a court system that you're just a number for.
Yeah. Do you see this? Because a lot of times an imam or a sheikh has good intention. He says, like, look, it's out of my league. I tried and he pushes it over here. You know, instead of like, you know, having more involvement, he actually directs them to this system, not knowing how corrupt the system is. Do you see that happen?
I do see that happening, and I think it's our community's fault. We have a little gap right now, right? We have the imams, you have the therapists, and then you have the lawyers. But there's a big gap over here. And that needs to be, as I was saying, arbitration centers, our own dispute resolution. So if imams could refer them to these places instead of the lawyers, that might be one way to save money and have our principals control.
They have that set up a lot of times in UK. I see it more so.
UK has it. The Jewish community has them.
The Jewish community has it, right?
Oh my God, yeah.
Already here in the States?
Here in the States. In New York, they're all over the place. We could do it. We could do it.
But I'm surprised it's not being done.
Inshallah, make dua for me. That's my goal, inshallah. That's my goal, that I want to establish a arbitration center or a mediation center where we can combine lawyers, scholars, muftis, psychiatrists, experts in that particular field to help us resolve issues and disputes in our own community. So make dua, inshallah, that actually happens.
Inshallah, this could be a start, a catalyst for that.
I hope so, inshallah.
This is very, very well needed. Tell us now, you also talk about the difference between when you go on, you see a lavish office, the $500, $600, $700, $900 attorney.
Yeah.
Not much difference from...
not at all.
From a $300 attorney?
I don't think so. Not at all.
No?
I think what is important is experience and reputation, right? Having a big office or having charging a lot of money doesn't mean you have those things, right? Your lawyer should at least know 5 of the judges in each county that you want them to represent. They should have at least some familiarity with that judge. They should have a reputation amongst other lawyers to know to resolve cases rather than just being a pit bull. And so what ends up happening is that you think you're bringing the big guns, but all you're doing is you're taking that money, like we said before, and giving it to these lawyers who are not going to have anything better or give you anything of more value than your average $300-$400 attorney. That's my opinion.
Yeah. It's solid. Yeah. I mean, I think this is, if somebody's experienced, right, they know the law.
Yeah.
A lot of it's just, it seems like it's show.
I think so too.
Yeah?
I think so too. It's a lot of show. And that's the thing, is that you're creating a mill. Because what you do is that you bring in the cases, you have a bunch of paralegals in the back who are doing all the work, and you're pushing it along without your own values, your own advice actually coming to the client. You basically are a yes man to your client, and for that client, it's all based on emotions. As a lawyer, you're supposed to be their logic. You're supposed to tell them to think in black and white rather than thinking in revenge. But if you're those big lawyers, that's usually what you thrive on, is that animosity.
You mentioned the word revenge.
Yeah.
Let's talk a little bit about that. What have you seen and you can spot it. You can spot where it's like, this is more emotional. This is not according to the dean. Like, we 100%. Need to think a little more logically here. Talk about some of that.
Yeah, and so what I was saying before too, right, is that as soon as the problem hits, we go to the lawyers. And it's usually revenge. That's what's motivating it, is, how could you do this to me? Right? How could you do this to my family? And here's another thing. And sometimes it's not even the two individuals. It's their families who are throwing more stuff at the other side, saying you've dishonored our family. And so it's these extraneous people who are putting more fuel in the fire.
Fueling the fire. Just like in the documentary, the lawyers admit that it's already a tinderbox and they're putting just fire, they're adding.
Yeah, yeah.
Why do they, another thing in this documentary, they talk about, they have you fill out, paperwork to show how much at the end you're worth.
Yeah.
What is this about? So they can at the end suck you dry? How does this work? That's what this documentary alludes to.
Yeah. So basically, every case, if you're going to fight about money, the first thing you have to do is called a financial disclosure. In Illinois, it's a 9-page document where you literally write every source of income, how much taxes you pay, payroll taxes, what are your current balances on your accounts, how much you spend on clothes, food. You break it all down, and you have to attach your bank statements, your tax returns, and your pay stubs. That's like standard. So you disclose it, both sides disclose it. But that's not it. If you want to go deeper, you can go deeper and say, you know what? I don't really trust what's happening in these financial disclosures. You can go 3 years back, 5 years back, and get every bank statement. You can get experts hired to evaluate to see if they spent money. So yeah, finances and children are the two major things in any divorce. So that's really what the case is concentrating on.
One thing the imam told me, who was himself going through this firsthand, he was sharing with us, he was saying that one thing is the technique that they do, the attorneys, is that once you're with them now, and we're not talking about extreme situation where someone's throwing a right hook, uppercut, no, we're not talking about that. We're talking about now that there is obviously some tension and disrupted, and now let's say the husband or wife, someone, they're trying to get back, they're trying to work it out, but now if they get with an attorney, the attorney says, look, no speaking to the person. They got to come through me. So they close that door and there's no more talking.
Yeah.
What's going on there?
So sometimes it can go both ways. Yes, I have seen lawyers who say, look, all communication should go through me. You hired me for a reason, for the communication aspect. I'm going to be your logic. I'm going to be your filter. Sometimes that works. I'm of the opinion that the communication, especially if there's kids, that keep the communication open between you and your ex-spouse, because you're going to have to deal with each other forever. So yeah, I would be a little cautious for lawyers telling you not to do that. At the same time, there are instances where men or women use it as an excuse to say, my lawyer's telling me I can't communicate with you, when really they feel low self-esteem. They might not feel empowered in the relationship. So they kind of use the attorney to speak on their behalf. So it can go both ways.
Going back, what are some of the, before we even get to this, like what are the, now, I mean, as a practicing Muslim, the signs that you see before they even, because these, like you said, these are the symptoms of something greater.
Yeah.
It's at the end, you know, but you can prevent a lot of these things. And I'm sure you have, you know, foresight, like if they would have done this or this, they could have prevented it. You know, a lot of things go back to just following the deen properly. 100%. So what are some of the things, that advice you can give, you know, if we back it up, to prevent someone from having to come see an attorney?
Yeah, no, that's a good question. So first of all, look, the Prophet ﷺ told us there's 4 things you're going to look for in a spouse, right? You're going to look for wealth, lineage, beauty, but the most important thing is their deen. And we kind of just look at that in a very superficial manner. Okay, they have a beard, they wear this, they do that. You don't really know if they pray. You don't know what kind of things are happening in their family. And so I think that the first thing is to understand the other party's values. Forget about the appearances, forget about all that, and learn about them. I think second is to do premarital counseling. And that's just like there's a stigma against counseling in general, or therapy in general. We need to remove that, and especially for premarital counseling. I would tell every imam not to do a nikah until you do premarital counseling. Khalil said there's so many of them that do a 4-session premarital counseling. They learn about each one of you individually. You take a personality test. You talk about your past. You talk about your parents' relationship. Because these traumas, the way that you view the world, is going to have a very big impact on your marriage. The other thing I would say is, don't be so allergic to the advice of our parents, right? They have wisdom. They've seen life. They're looking 70 years behind and giving you advice. So don't discount it entirely, right? So there is a lot of wisdom when our parents tell us to look at this, look at the family, look at, you know, X, Y, and Z. And so don't just throw it all out and not take any advice from those who are around you.
That's deep, you know, because if you have, you know, 2 young people, and then you're going and getting advice from just anybody, let's say a friend who's not even married. It's crazy, right? But your parents over here, they've been through the ringer, and they survived. They got some good. Why you're just going to exclude them? Throw it out?
Sorry.
This is very important. Going back to this, and I want to frame it because a lot of times there's just so many sensitivities and roadblocks to when you want to give advice. Everyone's like, don't judge me. We're judging every day, you know. You're judging someone if they're doing something good, or a lot of times, you know, people judge on other aspects, you know, from what we see, what's apparent. But only God Almighty Allah obviously can judge, you know, the hearts. But so if we look at this example from people who put their lives out there, if you were to give, let's say, Kanye, who seems like he's a religious person. So we'll translate it from here to now if you are a young man looking to get married and you're just looking about looks, what are you going to expect? I mean, Kanye, he married someone who's just known for putting themselves out there, right?
Yeah. I mean, yeah. What did you expect? I mean, I think this is all a show anyways, but that's a different story.
Yeah. So what do you expect now now let's take that and take it to the Muslim's life. You know what I mean? Young man, he's looking to get married, but he's just focused on the looks.
Yeah.
Or the woman, same thing. It goes both ways. She's just like, oh, that's my Prince Charming. And then how much does those Hollywood images affect the woman, affect the man, the fairy tale marriages?
Absolutely. I mean, that's what Instagram is doing, right? That's what most of social media is doing, is selling you this lifestyle, which is just not true. This whole romantic aspect of marriage is very new. It's only 50, 100 years, right? Most of marriage was a practical survival, human need that society, you know, put forward. So I think for the young guys out there who are looking for women, or the women who are looking for guys, like, you got to get deeper, right? Deeper, not only when you're looking at marriage, but deeper in your own life, right? Like, ask yourself, why do you practice Islam? Do you believe, what is your purpose? Like, I think unless, kind of backing up a little bit, when we look at different worldviews, a lot of times we look at it from a lower level, but we have to zoom out. So like there's ontology, anthropology, there's different ways that you can kind of look at a world system and critique it. What we're doing with this marriage aspect, and when we're telling a guy, hey, don't look at only looks. The problem is that for the last 15, 20 years, that's all that's been touted to him and taught to him, is that it's the way that things look, how you're perceived in society, that's what matters. So there's almost like this unbrainwashing that we have to do. And I think it really takes us to have fraternities almost for men, to show them what character means, to show them what it means to be masculine and to be a man. And I think that these things that we had in the past would help men understand what it means to be a man and what to look for in wives. So I don't know if I can give just one bit of advice, but I think we need kind of a training system for our men to become men.
This is so important, and there's another thing I want to touch upon. It could be sensitive, but it's very important that we, discuss these things, and hopefully, so they don't end up again, because the end result is over here coming to see you, right, or an attorney in a flashy office, and it's just wasting all the money at the end of the day. So now some scholars have told me, Eddie, this is something we're seeing, and you can, inshallah, be brave enough to talk about this. And this is out of love for our brothers who might have fallen into it. Sisters, have you seen the complaints of this? Sometimes you'll see, in Jahiliyyah, we've had a lot of the men, they'd have their trophy girlfriends, right? And they'd flaunt them all around. But, as Muslim men, we have ghira, with this protective, loving jealousy. So now the scholars are saying they're seeing this as a catastrophe about to happen, where a lot of the brothers now, they're taking their wives and putting them out there for the world to see in a way. And this is not just them just taking one picture together. They're making their career on Instagram or on Facebook, and putting his wife out there with the fish lips, and just her with all the makeup, and just like putting her out for the world to see. You know what I mean? Or the wife has So what have you seen this at the end result? This divorce linked back to something like this, where it fell apart because of things like this, back to social media.
Yeah, I mean, I've definitely seen the slippery slope of social media.
Slippery slope.
Right, of social media, of putting yourself out there. I mean, I can't imagine anybody ever thinking that I want the world to see my wife. And maybe that same guy 5-10 years before didn't think that, right? But that's how shaitan gets you. It's step by step, right? And I think there might be some, may God protect us all, like maybe some deficiency or some hole in your heart that you feel like by getting the likes, right? Because nothing else is getting you the likes, by exposing your family, your wives, the mother of your children, that's how you want likes. I think that should be an introspective place in your life to see, why do I need to do that? Who are your children going to look up to? I mean, subhanAllah, it's like, it's a sad reality.
And then the someone else says, well, what's it to you? But then the person says, look, because now it trickles down. Now, instead of being a good influence, now, hold on, my family wants to do the same thing. You're doing it, and now we want to do it, and now you're setting bad trends. And it reminds me of the hadith where the Prophet ﷺ said, the one who sets a good trend, a good sunnah, revives something good, does something good, will have the reward of it. But the one who sets a bad trend will have the consequences of that, that sin.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So this is very deep. So a lot of these things, we've kind of been inculcated into the culture, and we're not seeing things from the deen perspective.
Exactly. We just got to step out of it. Maybe take the month of Ramadan, or take some, sorry, I'm cutting you off, but take Ramadan, for example, as a opportunity to disassociate yourself and disattach from this virtual world. Concentrate on your family, concentrate on your kids, that relationship between husband and wife. Really, that's the most important thing that we have, is our family and our spouses, our parents, and the whole world is just a distraction from that, in my belief. And that's why I'm so passionate about this area. I'd never wanted to be a divorce attorney, but I can see now that Allah's opening the doors, where by understanding how the community is going through divorce, then I can, inshallah, talk about marriage. And just use this opportunity, inshallah.
This is great advice. Ramadan right around the corner. Now's that time, that spiritual boot camp.
Yeah,
It's
exactly.
really time. What else can you share with us before we conclude?
Yeah.
Are there any stories that really stood out, that really pain the heart? Incidences that you can recall, things that people can connect with, and they can go ahead and now, use that example to have a real thing that they can touch, feel, and that can impact their lives for the better from some kind of story that you've been through in some kind of a tragic divorce or whatnot.
Sure. So before the story, this one thing, I want people to understand about marriage is when you go to that courthouse and you're getting that license, what does that actually mean? Honestly, this should make you sign a waiver, because there's a lot of things that you're signing when you're signing that license, even though they're not disclosing it to you. From the date you get married, whatever assets you earn, the businesses, the savings account, whatever retirement account, everything you accumulate is going to be put into one pot and divided. Whether you earned it, the other person earned it, it doesn't matter. You are considered one human being, one individual according to Western marriage laws. And so the implications that come with that are huge. And so that would be one thing that I'd like the Muslim community to understand, and anybody to understand really, is what are you actually signing up for when you get married? From a story perspective, man, I don't even know where to start. I have cases where kids are locked in the basement. I've had cases where people are putting cocaine in the kids' shoes so that they get caught at the airport. I've seen cases where...
These are not Muslims, are they?
They're all Muslims, man. They're all Muslims. They're all Muslims. I've had... this is very explicit, but kind of going off of your Instagram, where people are putting their lives on blast, so much so that we've gotten into like perversions almost, where people are exposing their spouses, and that's leading to divorces. This crazy things. From a story perspective, the craziest one I can think of, there's so many crazy ones, but one that really sticks with me is a guy, his kid's name is the same as my kid's name, but his spouse told the DCFS that he stuck something up his child's behind, okay? And reported to DCFS. Emergency motion, couldn't see his kids. She filed another DCFS. This guy hadn't seen his kid. And it's funny, every time I talk to him, he's like, Assalamu alaikum, brother, 341 days. That's how we used to talk. Because that was how long it was since he didn't see his kid. There was a psychiatrist involved who was essentially brainwashing the child to make him believe that the father is dangerous. So he came to a supervised visit with a shield and a sword to protect himself from his father. Like, that was the spewing that they were doing in this kid's brain to make them against the father. After $30,000, $40,000, $50,000, finally got a psychiatrist report to show what's actually going on. And he saw his kid after a whole year. And that's just one out of a dozen cases that I have where parents haven't seen their kids. Allah protect us.
I'm speechless. Wow, subhanAllah. Based on a lie.
Oh, yeah.
This was all started off for a lie.
Yeah.
And that lie was what motivated from what? Hate, revenge, what?
Everything. And that's the thing. In our system, like in the criminal world, you can't go to jail unless you're proven beyond a reasonable doubt, or you can't be convicted beyond a reasonable doubt. That's not how it works in family law. In family law, you make the allegation. Usually what's going to happen is that the judge is going to freeze everything. Okay, you can't see the kid until we figure out what the truth is. It's almost like guilty until proven innocent in the family law system, whereas it's the opposite everywhere else.
Whoever does this, via be a man, via be a woman, this is evil. This is just hearing that. This is sick.
Yeah.
This is evil. And you think you can get away with it in this life, but that's why there's the day of judgment, and that's why there's
exactly.
Consequences to your actions. So, when people, again, this could be a man or woman doing it. Whoever's doing it is evil. They have to really think and reflect. And this is just hearing this. Just to keep someone away from their child for this long, and to put them, I can imagine the kind of emotional, psychological trauma. This is like a torture. You need to go through this. Yeah. And then to have someone else coming in, and it reminded me of that documentary, The Divorce Corp, where they had this sick individual who's like into bondage and all this other crazy like stuff, and he's actually the person who's dictating. He's the therapist that came in, and he's telling the father, or the mother, he's telling them like, okay, dictating how they're supposed to be if they're fit parents.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I'm saying. Why are we having people who don't share our values decide what happens to our kids? It's sad.
And you open yourself up, or the imam or the sheikh, when you send them over here.
Exactly.
No?
Exactly.
Wow. Let me touch upon this. One thing I was thinking about, you have, and that goes back to the deen being perfect, this way of life from the Creator, Islam. If you're indulging in dating and you're kind of like setting yourself up for divorce at the end of the day, like, because what is it? It's like test driving. It's like, okay, you go from one person, because that's often the complaint, like, why, how are we going to get to know each other? How are we going to this, that, and the other? But what happens is like you're training yourself, because every time you date someone, what happens, like as soon as things don't go well, you cut out. You go to the next person, and then you get excited, and then you're dating, and then next what happens, things get bad, it hits the fan, and you're out.
Exactly.
And you've done this for so many years, and now you get married, and you're really excited because you thought you found the right person, but it's not. And then there comes the conditioning with Hollywood and all the other stuff, Bollywood, and now you've already conditioned yourself by dating to divorce.
Exactly, because you haven't built those necessarily qualities to be a good husband or to be a good wife, but if you're just dating. Because what you need to be a good spouse is patience. You need foresight. You need generosity. You need these different things that dating is not going to teach you, right? Only Islam, something that, can give you morals, is going to teach you that. But you're right. We don't have the tools prepped, ready to go for marriage, because we're lost in this society.
Mm-hmm. We're going to have to do this again. This is a very important topic.
Yeah.
As one of my guests before said, this is a tsunami that's coming, and we need the academics, the groupthink. We need people of knowledge to come together and to really talk to people like yourselves who are in the field, who know what's going on the ground, to get in touch with you, and so we can hopefully try to change the tide. To do something, because if the family's destroyed, society is destroyed. 100%. Where's the ummah then?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
So where can people, if they want to get in touch with you and
sure. So FaruqiHussein.com is our website. If you Google Muslim lawyer, Muslim divorce lawyer, Chicago, we should come up. But look, anytime anybody has questions about Islam and how it relates to a divorce, or any scholars out there who are interested in this area, I would love to collaborate and come up with a solution, because like you said, it's a tsunami. It can wipe away, we worry about climate change, we worry about all these things, but what's bigger is our family.
That story you just shared with me, I'm still like,
I know,
man, this is like took the energy out of me.
Allah.
And you, how do you sleep at night with hearing? And this is just one.
Yeah, this is just one. Has
this left you with almost like, what's that, the PTSD? Or
No, I mean, you definitely have to separate, right? You have to separate and really go back to what is our purpose, right? And if I can concentrate on my family, my community, and kind of take that energy and pour it into here, I think that's my way of coping with it. But it is sad, man. It is deep to see people that you see walking around in the masjid. And again, we're not perfect. I'm not perfect. You're not perfect. But it gives you a opening to what the human condition really is, and that the Muslims are not, they're not blind to it, and they're being impacted by it.
SubhanAllah. Do you ever come to a point where you're just like, obviously you have certain standards you have to go by, and everything is there, and there's limitation or restraints, I'm sure, because of the law, but sometimes when you hear stuff like this, when you're going through it, your client, and you're just like, it just, you want to approach the other person and be like, how don't you fear Allah? You're a Muslim, right?
Yeah.
Where's your iman? Does it ever come to that?
I mean, sometimes, so like, it depends. Sometimes it depends why the client wants you, right? I'm guessing that if you hire me, I mean, maybe you trust, maybe you've heard something, but I'm hoping because I'm Muslim, right? And maybe you're open to what other knowledge or experience I have, not only through divorce, but from the Islamic tradition as well, to help in that process. But besides that, I mean, yeah, subhanAllah.
Thank you. Thank you for spending some time with us.
Of course. Thank you so much for having me. It's an important topic. I'm glad you're hitting it. And may Allah accept you and increase you. And you've had such a big impact on me and the Chicagoland and all of America. Jazakallah khair.
Ameen. May Allah, God Almighty Allah accept.
Ameen.
Ameen. Thank you.
Of course.
And thank you guys for tuning in. Very important topic. Go ahead and leave your thoughts in the comments below. If you've gone through something like this, your experiences, and if you feel this is something that should be talked about more, share it with your local imam, your sheikh, other people's out there, so they can get more of a perspective. If you've been also like this imam that I mentioned, who's actually gone through the system, and you have something that you want to share it with us. And we'll see you next time here again on the Deen Show. Subscribe if you haven't already. We'll see you next time, God willing, inshallah. And if you, I cannot leave without giving you a gift. If you're not yet Muslim and you're tuning in to see what these Muslims are talking about, and you like a free copy of the Quran, go ahead and visit thedeenshow.com. We'll take care of the postage and everything and get it delivered to you. And if you still have some questions about Islam, call us at 1-800-662-4752. We'll see you next time. Until then, peace be with you. Assalamu alaikum. And if you like this episode of The Deen Show, like this video, share this video far and wide, and support us on our Patreon page so we can continue this work. Thank you for tuning in. Peace be with you. Assalamu alaikum.